Hi, my name is Patricio Vaca, and today I'm going to talk about two important topics in the educational field. First, the teacher roles, and second, the audiolingual method. First, the teacher roles. As we know, the teacher is a very important part in the teaching and learning process, and in this case, is a very important part in the language teaching learning process, because the teacher is who gives the necessary information, the teacher is who gives the tools, the resources to the students, applied it, and to get the necessary knowledge. Now, in the classroom management, the teacher also has an important role, because the teacher is who manages the classroom, the teacher is who organizes, and the teacher is who have the control in the classroom. So the teacher has many roles. So the most important are eight, and those are the teacher as a planner, manager, monitor, facilitator, diagnostician, a language resource, assessor, and report builder. Well, the teacher as a planner. It means that the teacher previously plans and prepare the lesson. Also, the teacher design and add the necessary materials to do it. Well, the teacher also reflects before to teach and to apply the lesson, and it's because during the lesson we can find many problems. For that reason, the teacher reflects and the teacher gives some possible solutions to some possible problems. The teacher as a manager. It means that the teacher organizes the classroom. The teacher organizes the learning environment and the students. Also, the teacher is who establishes some rules to be followed by the students, and the teacher establish their routines. So it's important, because if the teacher applies rules, the student has to follow the rules, and at this way the lesson could be fluent and the lesson could be developed in a better way. The teacher as a monitor. Yeah, when there are some activities, the teacher as a monitor, it means that the teacher have to walk around the classroom, and the teacher has to check the learner's performance. Also, the teacher has to check the learner's how the learner works. Then the teacher as facilitator. It means that the teacher gives the necessary resources to the students. The teacher helps to the students to improve themselves, and the teacher also helps the students to improve in autonomy. The teacher as a diagnostician. It means that the teacher evaluates the students, and at this way the teacher finds some difficulties in their learning. At this way the teacher can help the students to improve in their difficulties. The teacher as a language resource. It means that the teacher can be used by the students as a help, because the teacher can give the students some advices to improve in the learning process. Now, the teacher as an assessor. It means that the teacher evaluate the students to find their language level and to find their aptitude. At this way, the teacher can find also the necessary strategies and techniques to be applied according to the students' needs. And finally, the teacher as a report builder. It's an important part, because the teacher have to create a good environment, a good learning environment, because the teacher creates a friendship environment. It means that in the classroom the learners don't have to be just classmates. The learners also can be friends. Now, I would like to talk about the audiolingual method. To talk about the audiolingual method, I took the structure to talk about it from the Approaches, Methods and Techniques book. And first of all, I want to talk about the background or the history of this method. Well, the audiolingual method has its origins in the Second World War. Specifically, it was proposed in the United States. At the beginning, the audiolingual method was called the Army method because it was in the Army when the audiolingual method was born. Now, according to the theory language, we can find that the audiolingual method emphasized on the listening and speaking skills. So, as a kind of pyramid, I think, because on the top we can find the phonology, then the morphology, then we can find the phrases, and finally we can find sentences. Now, in this method, we can find that the teacher gives a model, and then the students or the learners repeat information. It's in simple words. What is the audiolingual method? So, about the objectives, we can find two kinds of objectives, and these are the short-term objectives and long-term objectives. As short-term objectives, we can find a kind of organized pattern because we find a listening comprehension, accurate pronunciation, then the reading on some phonological symbols, and finally the ability to apply the symbols in a written form. Now, in the long-term objectives, we can find a one very important long-term objective, and it's the use of the language as native speaker. So, in the syllabus, we can find that the syllabus is divided in three main aspects. First, the phonology, second, the morphology, and finally, the syntax. We can follow the syllabus to apply it in many different activities. So, the dialogues and drills are the basis in this method. So we can find some activities related to the audiolingual method, and I think the most important are the repetition, the replacement, the inflection, the expansion, the contraction, and the transformation, and finally the restoration. So, one of the most important part in this method is the role, the different kind of roles. We can find the roles of the learner, the role of the teacher, the roles of the instructional material. As the role of the learner, we can find that the learner has an active role, but the learner not is the center in this method. It's because the learner only have to repeat accurately what the teacher says. The learner is an active person in this role because the learner interacts actively with the teacher. So the teacher has a central role in this method because the teacher is who directs the class. The teacher is who gives the information, and the teacher is who start with interaction. because the learner are not encouraged to start with the interactions. Then we have the instructional materials. So the instructional materials assist to the teacher in the teach and learning process. So in this method, the textbook are not used because in this method the textbook is considered as a destructor. So we have two important materials in this method, and these are the recorders and the audiovisual materials. These are very important and are considered the center in this method. Now, to the procedure, we can find that we need an exhaustive oral instruction in this method, and we can find a typical model as a procedure, because the teacher gives a model. It means that the teacher gives a part of a text, the teacher gives a sentence, gives some words, then the learner have to repeat what the teacher said. Then the teacher correct the mistakes from the repetition, and finally the learner has to memorize the dialogue, the sentences, the words. Finally, we can find a declination of this method, because from 1960 to 1970 the audiolingual method had a very dark step. Well, the audiolingual method was attacked in those years, and from this attack there were many reforms to the audiolingual methods. The most important was when Chomsky proposed a reform to the audiolingual method. That's all, thanks for watching.